I'm mocking up here some mountings for the shock absorbers. You can see here's one of my, this is actually a rear shock absorber from the van that this, light delivery van that this was from. So you can see if I bolt that there, look, the bodywork, the nose will come over it, this will stick out, and then this can go down to one of these. So I put a regular rubber bush type thing there. I have a rod come up, and then I have like a something shaped like that, which will go over here with the bolt through. So this will come off, and that'll be quite neat and tidy, reasonably aerodynamic. The problem was working out how I was going to mount it, because you could say, well, why didn't I just run a bar through here from the front of the chassis forwards, and then a crossbar or something, and bolt it to that, rather than have it come down from here. Well, the reason is, if I do it like this, I can still drop this axle off. I can basically undo these clamps, and I can drop the whole front axle, including the spring attached, straight down and off the car. Obviously got to remove the under panel first, relatively quickly. If I start putting welding bars through here, it's not so good. I've got to dismantle it even further to get it to come off. So I'd rather do it like this. So obviously, like that is now, it's not strong enough. You know, this would vibrate up and down probably, but once I fitted the shock absorbers, worked out where my steering rod's going to be, I can then triangulate this up to here with little cross braces. I can put a strut down from here, from this thing that holds the steering box, so I can strengthen it all up later. It also gives me possibility of welding tabs on to support this, so it'll kind of develop. I don't have a press brake that can bend like 5 or 6 mil steel like this is. So what I've done, if you look here carefully, with the grinder, with the cutting disc, I basically just cut a slit along the back side of it. So it's only about 1 millimeter thick steel, and then bent it in the vise. And then I'm going to just weld it up, just weld up the back. Right, I've welded up the slits I cut here and here so I could bend them. So they need grinding back, and then I've welded these on both sides with the TIG welder. So just leave them cool down, clean everything up, and then I'll do a test fit. So I've just trimmed off the excess steel here, leaving enough for the weld, and tidied it up, and here. Right, so I've clamped it in place. It's level. And the other thing I've got to do before I tack weld it is check that I can get the master cylinder in here. So yes, I can pretty easily. So that's good. Okay. Right, well, I've been TIG welding like crazy, all around here. I've partly plugged weld these holes. I've not finished that yet. So this is a section of tube that I've cut off there, and this is solid rod, and I've actually found a use for my magnetic thing, because I need it to be held exactly 90 degrees to it. That will then have a bush pushed into it, which according to the website was the correct size, but the inner hole was too small, so I've had to I've actually used a drill in there running backwards, so basically just sort of worn it away rather than drilled it out. That will then fit over here, you see, and then I'll have this strut that goes up to shock absorber lever arm here, and then on the sides of the, so that will go in there, and there'll be big washers stacked up each side to fill up this gap here. okay, because it's a bit narrower than this, and then that should work, I think. So if I bolt it flat, that takes the maximum upward sweep to about there, and there's the angle. This is what I'm bolting it to. So basically by bolting them onto a wedge like this, I get a bit more upward sweep as my maximum there. So that's better. What I need to do now is, let's put that back. What I need to do now is test fit the upper body to check that it goes on okay. I mean, I think it will. Looks as if it should, but I better just check it. So by pushing these down all the way to there, I only have to cut a little notch. Right, well it just fits. Obviously these will be higher up here, but I'm just cutting the least metal out I can just for now, just to check it fits. I don't know if you can see, but if I stick the camera through there, you might be able to see, or maybe not. So this gives you an idea of what I'm trying to do. So I've left these over long at the moment. I'll cut them down. I mean, I could make them adjustable, I suppose. So I've got all this welded out. I've finished plug welding these. Need to grind them smooth. Do you remember I made these over long? So if that goes on there, they'll come up to there, and it will weld onto these, which I've only loosely made. I've got the wrong bolts in at the minute. They need to be M8. So I was going to cut these down and weld them on, but then I realised if you look at this spring hanger, it's a slightly different angle to this one, right? Because it's on jacks. So if I were to make these, shorten these now, so these are at the same angle, then when I put the whole car on the ground, it would probably be all wrong. So I'm not going to do that. I'm going to wait till the car's on the ground, bounced up and down on the front of it a bit, wheeled it back and forth a couple of times. Then I'll shorten these and make these little strut things to the shock absorbers. Otherwise it's just going to be wrong. Right, well I've done a couple of things here which don't seem very big, but they're taking me ages. I've got bulkhead in there, slab of steel, so that this beam axle, as it goes up and down in this kind of groove, this slot, keeps my toes away from it. So no matter what happens, my toes aren't going to end up jamming into the suspension. And the other thing I've done is I've extended this mesh floor around the sides here. That was harder than it looks because everything's curved. So getting it all to fit so I can do the welding was just like loads of cardboard templates and cutting and filing and fiddling around, but you can see there it is, and it's, there we go, zoom out, there you are. So that's the cockpit. So any sand can sort of fall out through the floor, won't get trapped, start rusting through. Also it's, although it's steel, it's not very heavy because it's mainly air, and if there's any kind of accident, it stops my ankles and feet sort of getting stuck between holes between the frame rails. I don't really want to get my ankles snapped off or something, just for something so simple. So that's what I've been doing there. So the next thing is put the, it's actually the clutch master cylinder back in there, reconnect the push rod, connect the pipe, refit the shock absorbers. Then I can work out some bracing struts, fit them. You might as well put a strut from here to here, a little triangle, weld that in, paint it, and then the front is pretty much done as much as I can until I put it on the ground. I've been busy with the MIG welder. So these just loosely bolted in place, So the main things are, got a little bracing piece here, so this can't flap up and down, so that connects in now with this plate that the steering rack's bolted to, and the master cylinder for the clutch is bolted to. And the other thing I've done, which I've been meaning to do for a while, is there is a cross brace here and here, but a bigger cross brace to this piece sticking out that the steering rack attaches to, so it really can't shudder that way at all. And then I've got a diagonal here down to here to stop this side flapping up and down. Still enough room to get the bolts in, just about each side. There's still clearance for the steering arm here. Even if I use the shorter one, I have actually got a shorter one I might use. There's no point having the long one. If you remember, I went to a great load of trouble to get this, because the wheels hit these anyway. So I may go back to the short one, we'll see how it goes. Anyway, it's a strange looking affair, but basically I've got to get it all to fit into the nose, and also allow room for this to bounce up and down, and that should work. There we go. So this is it all mocked up. I haven't welded these on yet. You can get the general idea. The other thing I've done, previous video I showed how I made this tail cone. There was a funny little indentation here from where I'd welded the cone on, and it ran all the way around. So I used a hammer and dolly, so holding the dolly on the inside and then tapping around where the depression was, it comes out. As I did that, some of the welds started to split, because the weld was done with quite thin rod. So the penetration isn't like amazing, so I had to re-weld all this, re-grind it, re-polish it, and I also did something similar along the sides. You can see, if you look closely, you can see the odd mark here and here, but the weld again has almost disappeared. So I've actually improved it from the previous video, so I really am a lot more pleased with that now as well. Well, I said I'd record all my mistakes as well as my successes. So you can see there, I've countersunk it for one of these bolts, which are more period correct. See that there, slot head. So that's all great. And I was countersinking this one, and I was a bit overzealous with the countersink. I've gone straight through, so I'm going to have to weld. Luckily there's a slight gap between this and the metal tab I'm screwing into, so I'm just going to weld a little square of aluminium there and then re-drill it, and that might kind of save the day. So I've welded a square on without burning through, although there's probably a mark on the other side which need polishing down. So now I'm going to grind that down smooth, then drill a hole through just wide enough for the bolt, and that should resurrect it. So you can see I need to drill a little hole there, and you see these little marks, little blisters. I need to use the polisher to get those down, I think, and just do it gradually. So there it is, all polished. So let's put it back on the car and see if it hides my mistake. So there you go, folks. That's how to turn a short job into a 20-minute job into an hour and 20-minute job. Anyway, you can see that's the good side that's been countersunk properly. This is the fake side that's not been countersunk at all. So all that just to get a good cosmetic result. So you can see why I'm using these bolts in most places along this, because they basically hide a multitude of sins. You can drill the holes slightly oversized, gives you a couple of millimeters movement each way on the panels. Yeah, anyway, got there in the end.